The Avett Brothers. There was a documentary. I should probably have at least read the name of the documentary and written it down for this, but I'm not the most organized, and you have ChatGPT, Google, and a brain, so I think it was on Amazon Prime. Rick Rubin was heavily involved. There's a documentary about the Avett Brothers. They are a music duo, I believe from North Carolina, but they're from the Carolinas. They're fucking cool. The documentary is incredible. And the documentary is not like, hey, here's two guys blowing up. But the thing I loved about the documentary is it introduced me to what I think is the first time I've ever seen what I believe is actually a functional family. My immediate family now, like my wife, my kids, all that, we're doing pretty good now. The house I grew up in, it functioned, I guess, technically, you know. It was a little chaotic, and I don't know how many times I got the shit beat out of me by my brothers, but it was every day, for sure. It was a chaotic house, but there was a lot of weird shit going on, and we're not going to talk about it, but there was a lot. But the point is, the Avett Brothers are a fantastic music duo that they were just doing their thing, touring, playing their songs, and I'm going to miss a few parts, so you should watch the documentary. But they did what they had to do. They just got out there and played music in random bars, and if they could get on a festival, outside, inside, didn't matter, parks, whatever. And they did their thing, and they went through a few different kind of genre changes, and they played in bands, and they did a bunch of shit. But when they found their groove, the two brothers working together, one is more of a writer and one is more of a singer. They're both very talented. And they have, it's not just the two of them, they have a band, but this documentary covered how they did everything and the time they spent working on crafting their thing and turning it into a incredible just career of doing whatever they want and having however much money they need and whatnot. And there were interviews in it where they're talking about whether or not they feel like sellouts and things like that, because now they're going from like kind of this really indie underground thing to making a ton of money and working with big companies and big producers. And I think it was a really interesting thing to hear them talk about. But one of my favorite parts was they work their schedule around being at home with their kids, and they record nearby in town a lot. They also went to Rick Rubin's in Malibu and stuff, of course, but they would basically just do whatever it was they had to do to balance their music career and their having a family situation. And part of the documentary was these guys just straight up chopping firewood, mowing their own grass, shit like that. I mean, just being normal humans. And they have really nice houses, but they're not like living way beyond their means. And I don't think a lot of people know how to do that. I think the Avett Brothers are a very special group of guys that they figured out how to have the career they want and have the family life they want and treat everybody really nice. And also, it sounds crazy, but like seeing brothers that get along. Now, as adults, they get along. I'm sure they had their issues a little bit when they were kids, but it went into their childhood and stuff, and it looked like they just got along. And I'm really looking forward to seeing what the future holds with my kids, because it sounds crazy, but I didn't know that it was possible for siblings to like each other. I really didn't. I mean, my whole family, like once we became adults, we got along a lot better, but it was just constant fighting. And there was no reason for any of it. There was no competition. There was no, I mean, my parents made sure we all had food. We weren't like trying to kill each other over anything real. Just, you know, somebody would fart and then somebody else would fart on the other one's face, and then we'd beat the shit out of each other. Or my brother would chase me around the house and try to put his stinky feet on me. Just dumb shit. It's just dumb shit. But it was always constant, just weird, picking at each other. And I watched my two oldest, and they're such sweet kids. My son's 9. By the time this comes out, he'll be 10. My daughter's 14. My son is not 9. My daughter's 9. My youngest daughter's 9. I'm sorry. My son's 11. By the time this comes out, he'll be 12. My oldest is 14. She'll be almost 15 when this comes out. So they're about 2 years apart, and I do know their ages. I'm not going to tell you their birthdays or their social security numbers, but I know their birthdays. And I got their social security cards at the house, so I know shit, okay? But no, my son is, he's just a really sweet kid. He's nice. And occasionally he likes to pick on his sister a little bit, you know. He'll do things like hide somewhere and scare her. And then she goes, ah, you got me. And then they laugh. It's fine. They mess with each other. They're playful. They pick at each other a little bit, but they get along really well. And the older they get, the more they get along. When they were little, there were occasionally some problems. One time I had to get an extra large shirt and put it on both of them at the same time. And it's a great picture, but just make them, I was like, hey, y'all stay in that fucking shirt till you get along. And they stayed in that shirt for about 20 minutes, and then they forgot why they were in the shirt and started making it fun. And the point is, great things happen when people grow up together and then figure out how to get along. The sooner you figure out how to get along with somebody that you're going to be around the rest of your life anyway, the better. And like I said, my siblings and I get along great now, but as kids, it was weird. We were fighting all the time. And watching a family like the Avett Brothers do something so incredible, again, you got to watch the documentary, it's just nice. It's nice to see two people get along and they don't have to. And it's nice to see an older brother helping his little brother out with advice. And it's nice to see when one of the guys has real problems in his life, he goes to his brother. And I don't know about you. Maybe you grew up in a really functional environment where everything was normal, but none of my friends got along great with their siblings. I had one friend that him and his brother never fought. Like, they never, like, physically beat each other up, but they didn't get along very well. But every person I knew that had a sibling, either there was a big age gap so they weren't around each other much, or they just absolutely fought all the time. And I was just thinking, man, if the Avett Brothers were my two brothers, if they did the same thing, and maybe instead of singing, they had a gunsmith shop or something, because that's more their thing, I could see it going incredibly well. I could see them having a great deal of success. But how I imagine it, still, because of how we were when we were kids, is more like the show American Chopper. If you've ever seen it, Paul Sr., it's Paul Tuttle Sr., he's the guy that opened the place, has a place called Orange County Choppers, where his son, Paul Jr., who is better at building motorcycles than him, will have an idea, and then he'll say he doesn't like it, and then they will break the entire fucking shop and throw furniture through windows and call each other terrible names for 5 minutes, and then they'll interview each person, and then you see a little bit of motorcycle stuff, and that's the fucking episode. It was the most dramatic shit ever, but it doesn't have to be that way. So let's say you're watching this, you're 20 years old, you had a very similar relationship with your siblings, and you're still not getting along. You should try to figure it out. Let's say you're raising kids right now and they're fighting all the time and you just chalk it up to, oh, well, kids will be kids. They're just going to be that way. It doesn't have to be that way. I don't have the answers, but what I do have is I can tell you my youngest daughter, my oldest daughter don't get along near as well as my two older ones, my son and my daughter, that are closer in age. But my son gets along with both of them really well. My daughter, the youngest one, who's 9, she does a little bit more stuff that I would say is probably considered annoying to an older sibling, and I think that's okay. I'm not saying they have to always get along and she needs to be always the sweetest, nicest thing ever. If she kind of bugs her siblings a little bit because she's a little obnoxious because she's 9, that's fine, because she's 9. She's going to be a little different than a 14-year-old. That being said, they still get along pretty fucking good. And I love watching it, and I can't take even half credit for it, but I know some of it's nature, some of it's just how they came out, some of it's the good genes that they got, and some of it's us trying to teach them to ignore the bad genes that they got, because my wife and I both have our flaws, and we both have our upsides, but at the end of the day, one thing that we all have in my house is we all are pretty fair to each other. We're all as nice as we can be. We all use a little bit of a charitable angle when something bad happens. If somebody breaks something that belongs to one of us, we almost always go, oh, well, I don't think he meant to, because they usually don't. And when things happen to us that seem bad, we all kind of seem to treat it the same way. My son had a nice watch. It was an Invicta watch, which for when you're 8 or 9 years old, that's pretty good. I think he got it at 9. And then when he was either 10 or 11, it went missing. We weren't paying too much attention to where it went. Stuff goes missing in our house every now and then. We assume it's just in a drawer somewhere. And then a kid came over wearing it a few months later, and And we talked to him about it. I was like, hey, dude, you know that's Asher's watch, right? And he's like, no, it's not. My brother bought it for me. And I was like, where'd your brother get it? And he said, Walmart. And I was like, your brother did not get it at Walmart. They don't sell that particular watch at Walmart. Your brother could have got it at Sam's, possibly, if this was like 5 years ago, but they don't carry this watch at Sam's either now. So when did your brother buy it? And he goes, oh, he got it for me last week. And I was like, no, he did not. He's like, yeah, he did. I was there. He bought it at Walmart. And we went back and forth, and I was like, hey, listen, dude. I don't have a way to prove that that's our watch. I don't have a receipt that has a serial number on it. And it's just like, it's like $100 watch. Like, it sucks that it's gone, but it's a $100 watch. And what I can do is I can say, if you're lying to me, you can go home and think about it, and you have 24 hours to come back and talk to me about it. And if you're willing to just admit that you stole it and give it back, or just give it back and say, you know what, I'm pretty sure I was wrong. You don't even have to admit you stole it. We'll take it back. We'll pretend it never happened. I'm not going to let you in his room for a while, but you can still play in the backyard. And he refused to do that, and we didn't talk to him for a while, and then everything blows over, and we see him all the time now, and it's one of those things where it's like, he missed out on a lot of fun opportunities for probably 6 months, and now we watch him very closely, and I think he's terrified to steal things because apparently he's scared of me. I don't know why, because I'm like super fucking chill dude, right? But the point is, my son's reaction to this, I don't know how I should have handled it, but if I don't have actual factual proof that you did something, I'm not going to try to do anything too crazy back. How my son handled it was basically, he said, well, I didn't wear it that much anyway, and I'll probably get another one later. And if I really want one, I bet I can figure out a way to make $100. And that was one of the proudest moments I've had with him. It was just like, yes, it bothers me that somebody stole it. Yes, I want to punch the kid in the face. But instead of handling this like savages, we go, hey, you know what? We're lucky enough to have the $100 and have bought the watch and it not to be devastating when the watch goes missing. Maybe this kid isn't even lucky enough to have parents that tell him not to steal, and his brothers probably steal and tell him it's okay and tell him how to get away with shit. Maybe if people just treat him right, he'll fucking figure it out one day. It's kind of my theory. And my son's theory was, you know, I would never do that, but you can't control everybody, and I have other opportunities and options, and I can replace the watch, and it's just a watch. And I love that. I love that he was just chill about it, and it wasn't a huge deal because it's just a physical object that I bought him. It's not like somebody came over and beat him up. Like, if somebody punched him in the face and he beat the living shit out of him, I'd be okay with that. And if somebody punched him in the face and he came home and said, hey, dude, this kid punched me in the face and I didn't do anything about it, I'd be okay with that. But it'd be hard for me to watch the second one. It would be hard for me to go, okay, he's being passive with somebody hitting him. But if somebody takes something from him, I mean, somewhere in the middle would be great, because I've had a whole life I've had a lot of things stolen from me, and a lot of people have stolen from me, and it's ruined some relationships. But I heard somebody say this a long time ago, and then I saw it on a movie after that, and I've applied it several times. I believe the movie was not Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. What the fuck am I talking about? A Bronx Tale. It's a Bronx Tale. It's a great movie. But I think this kid owed somebody like $20. And old mobster sees him chasing the kid down. He's like, hey, what are you chasing him for? He goes, he owes me $20 fucking dollars, man. And he's like, hey, you know you'll never have to see him again if you don't get your $20 back? So you spent $20 to not deal with a fucking piece of shit. So just let him go. It's the best investment you'll ever have. I love that. So when people ask me to borrow money for most of my life, if it's a small amount, $20, $30, I've said yes a lot. Because if you're going to fucking ruin our relationship over $20 or $30 and avoid talking to me forever because you owe me $20, rather than just paying me $20, we weren't friends anyway. And I've also loaned people large amounts of money, and it's been a pain in the ass to get it back. Don't loan people more than $100. That's a really good number. Stop at 100. Unless you can't afford 100, then stop at 5. If you loan somebody money, this is my take on it. If you don't use violence to get your money back, odds are it will take 1 to 5 years to get any money back from that person, no matter how much money they make. So if you want advice, I wouldn't take it from me, but if you want to take advice from me, here's my one piece of advice for this episode. Don't loan anybody money unless you never want to see that person again, or it's an amount of money you don't care about not having, unless you're willing to use violence to get it back, because people do not like to pay people back, especially if they're nice and passive like myself. I have thought of using a baseball bat to get my money back. I've never done it, but I've thought about it. So don't do that. Just don't loan them the money. And shit, it's probably almost New Year's. Have a good day.